What up, everyone? Welcome to an episode of Knicks and 4 Live. Salute, salute. What up, Kev? Where do we begin? Where do we begin? As you guys obviously already know by now, the Knicks are officially 1-2 on the season. They just suffered a loss against the New Orleans Pelicans in New Orleans, 96-97. And this game, in my opinion, was over from the very beginning. I mean, the Knicks went down big early, and they didn't really seem to have any sort of dog in the fight, any will to sort of overcome any adversity in this game. And as the headline says right here, the Pelicans overpowered the Knicks 100%. And, you know, am I surprised at what we saw unfold this game? Not necessarily. However, it's an indication of more of the same, right? We've seen the Knicks in the past be sort of stagnant on offense, no real fluidity. We've seen in the past that there haven't been any real offensive schemes with this team, and it's just more or less of, you know, just isolation basketball, dribble, penetration. It's your turn, it's my turn. It's been a mixed bag on the offensive end, and unfortunately, the result isn't a loss, right? But, you know, what we're going to do today, guys, we're going to break down pretty much all three games that we've seen thus far. The loss against the Boston Celtics, the win against the Atlanta Hawks, and obviously the loss tonight against the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, like I said before, where do we begin? I think a great place to begin is Julius Randle. Now, Julius Randle, you know, in the past, I've, you know, showcased and, you know, verbalized my thoughts on what I feel about Julius Randle. I think while he's a pretty good player, you know, he does everything pretty good, he still is a burden on this team. As you can see, shout out to Knicks Muse, the worst percentage from the field goal through this season's first three games in Knicks history. Julius Randle is shooting 13 for 47, which is an average of 27.7% through three games. So is that terrible? Saying that that's terrible would be the understatement of the century. That is beyond horrible, right? And again, this is more of the same. Like I've been saying, this is sort of an indication of what we've seen in the past as far as what is the offensive approach with this team, right? How can we get our offense going? It's either through Jalen Brunson playing hero ball or Julius Randle playing hero ball. The only difference I would say between last season and so far the three games of this season is that Jalen Brunson hasn't been playing like the best player on this team. Now, I'll give him some time. He had significant struggles in the Boston Celtics game. He also struggled tonight, but he had a pretty good game last night against the Atlanta Hawks. And, you know, that was something that I was expecting to see. I wasn't expecting to see Jalen Brunson, you know, have consecutive in a row struggle games. I knew that he would bounce back, so I wasn't necessarily worried about Jalen Brunson. However, you know, in this game tonight, he didn't really, you know, make his presence that known. I mean, going back to last season, we know that the Knicks have been thriving. They thrived in the past whenever Jalen Brunson is going. And what we've seen so far in these three games, save for the game last night against Atlanta, is the simple fact that unless Jalen Brunson has it going, then this Knicks team isn't really going to be successful. Julius Randle has struggled significantly. And it's, you know, something that I'm a little bit concerned about, right? You know, that's the question I want to pose to the fans today is, you know, 3 games in, you know, you don't want to really overreact or anything like that, right? It's only 3 games. Teams are still filling each other out. They're still filling each other out, right? I mean, given the fact that this team has, in large part, mostly been intact, the only new player on this roster is Dante DiVincenzo, and I'll share my thoughts with how I feel about his performance so far as well. But, you know, this is a team that, in large part, knows each other very well. They've played with each other since last season, so there shouldn't really be that much struggle in terms of, you know, identity-wise. And, you know, one of the things that I'm also noticing thus far in these first 3 games is the lack of identity. Sure, the Knicks last season have been a grinding out team that, you know, work the hard way. They don't really show you finesse. They kind of bully you into their own pace. But it's hard to sort of like play out what exactly they want to do because, again, every time they have the ball in offense, it always seems to be, okay, Brunson, you either try to penetrate off of your immaculate footwork. If that doesn't work, then you kick to Julius. Julius, dribble, 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 try to figure out, isolate, and the rest is history. I mean, it was so bad, in this game. There were like consecutive plays. I want to go back to Julius for a moment. There were consecutive plays in this game where Julius, as soon as he touched the ball, I was just like, yeah, he's turning the ball over. Something bad is going to happen. And he either travels, he commits offensive foul, he loses the ball out of the end bound. I mean, it's just very, very sloppy, right? And you have to ask yourself, how long are we going to be able to put up with this? Because lo and behold, Jalen Brunson, I think we can all agree that he's the best player on the team. But if your second best player is continue to play like this, how does that really help us in the midst of the season? We need our top guys to really perform. And if they're not going to perform, they're putting up numbers like this. Your second best player, perhaps your third best player at this point. I'll get into why I think he is your third best player at this point. But again, if your first and second best players are putting up mediocre performances to horrible performances, as we've seen in Julius out of these 3 games, 2 horrific performances, you're not going to be successful regardless of what happens. Going back to the Atlanta game last night, they were very successful because they were shooting the lights out from the 3. And, that's one other thing. You look at the overall field goal percentage, but if you look specifically at the 3-point shot, they shot the ball horribly. In general, from 2 or 3 in the Celtics game, they shot the ball very well. I think they almost set a record, most threes in the game for the Knicks organization. They shot the ball really well from 3 and overall. And this game, again, is more of the same what we saw in the Celtic game. They shot the ball horribly from the field, and they couldn't connect from 3. So where do we go from here, right? Where do we go from here? This is the question. It's still early, and, guys are still working out the kinks. But it's something to truly be concerned with because, I'm looking at Julius Randle. I mean, again, he is terrible with his body language, right? As soon as he's in his head, he starts showing, he starts pouting. He starts walking up and down the court, not really giving that much effort. And we're starting to see Julius Randle unfold, and it's only 3 games into the season. That's something that I would be very concerned with, honestly. But only time will tell. Some guys, it take a little bit of time for them to get to, their spots, get more comfortable, get into more of the flow of actually playing real basketball. And it's early, but we'll see. But right now, it's not looking too good. You got potential reporting out there on possible trade moves, right? So obviously, you guys have been hearing a lot about Joel Embiid being in the conversation as a Knicks target, a realistic target, mind you, given the situation, what's happening with Philadelphia with James Harden and all that whole circus. But one of the packages that I've seen out there is a package for Joel Embiid that includes Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, a few first-round picks, and I forget there was another, whether it was Grimes or somebody else included in that deal. Now, if you're Philadelphia, right, you're not making that deal because you're looking at the performances of Julius Randle, and you're like, nah, that's not really enough for us to give away Joel Embiid, even if he is requesting a trade. But at this point, we haven't really seen any more growth from Julius Randle. It's kind of been like more of the same for the last 2 or 3 years. And again, while Julius Randle is a very good player, he does a lot of things very well, he is kind of holding us back in a lot of ways. And, I'm going to talk about Tom Thibodeau later on in the video. I'm going to save him for last. But again, the offensive systematics, right? Like, what is the game plan here? Because every time it seems to me, and you guys feel free to agree or disagree, but I think the eye test is pretty evident. When you give the ball to Julius Randle, he still has it set in his mind that he's one of the best players, if not the best player on this team. So he gets it in his mind. He gets it in his thoughts that whenever he has the ball, he can sort of dictate what he wants to do. He can score. And, his strength is off of his weakness because, yeah, he can get to the basket. He can, he's good enough with handle-wise to penetrate, but he's not efficient. And lo and behold, he turns the ball over. He lets the ball go out of bounds. Offensive foul. We've seen this happen time and time again, and that's not something that I can anticipate Julius Randle fixing. This is who Julius Randle is, right? He's going to give you a lot of headaches. He's going to have games where he's electrifying, right? We've seen that happen time and time again. But he's going to have more games like this, I believe, where it's like he's playing really horribly from the floor. And I believe Julius Randle going forward, if he's going to be, an integral part of this team, if he is going to be, with this team past a trade for the superstar, whoever we decide to get, if we don't end up getting Joel Embiid, then he's going to have to accept a sort of tertiary role, if you ask me, because the emergence of one person in particular and what we've seen so far in these 3 games is the sort of reemergence of RJ Barrett. Now, I made a video about RJ a few weeks ago talking about, is there any possibility of RJ Barrett becoming an all-star this season? If these 3 games are any indication of RJ Barrett taking that next step, I believe we can bet on him either scratching the surface of becoming an all-star. Maybe he's playing all-star caliber, but he doesn't get selected off of a technicality, right? You guys know how that works. But again, as Vic said, they said G League him, they said trade him, they said let him come off the bench. And I myself, I'm kind of guilty for the same because, I haven't really been big on RJ myself. I always acknowledge the fact that RJ Barrett has been a hard worker. He always tries to improve his game. So I admire RJ, or any player for that matter, that really takes the game seriously. High character guy, right? You don't have to worry about any off the court issues with RJ. Strong player, solid minded, and he's continuing to grow. But I knew very well in comparison between the beginning of this season and the beginning of last season, RJ didn't really play basketball in the offseason going back 2 seasons ago. But the advantage that he has this time around is that he had significant experience in the FIBA games, right? Playing for Canada. And I believe with that, practice, that game flow, he's still in gear, right? Or he's more ready than other players are to start the NBA season. And we're seeing it happen already. I believe he's averaging something like almost 25 points per game off a really high percentage field goal percentage. And this is the type of RJ that we've been waiting for, right? You see some of the plays, right, where he's even trying to take people off of the dribble. And handle is something that RJ has always had some difficulties with, right? And we've seen it already in a few games so far this season that he's making a considerable effort to penetrate the lane on his own accord. He's trying to be responsible on the offense to make something happen, to show more some creativity. And, that's what we want to see. And this is my point on what I want to talk about with RJ is the fact that going forward, RJ Barrett needs to be the focal point of the offense. No more can we have Julius Randle catch the ball at the 3 or wherever he catches the ball and try to create something out of nothing, because that is not an efficient play. We've seen it happen too many times, right? Going back 3 years ago, it's the same thing all the time, right? Now, there's a reason why he's being enabled to do that. Again, I'll touch upon that a little bit later. But if we are going to play basketball with this iteration of the team, right, that we have for the past few years, then some things need to change. I'm fine with Jalen Brunson, carrying, spearheading whatever direction we go in. Let him be on the attack first, and then anything else comes afterwards is secondary. I'm still of that mindset. But if Jalen Brunson is not forcing the issue and trying to create on the offensive end, then the push needs to be for RJ Barrett to score. And so far, what I've seen is a lot of efficiency, a lot of control, a lot of him being very decisive in exactly what he wants to do. Because I think one of the big things about RJ is that confidence issue, right? When he catches the ball, do I shoot it? Do I, try to bully my way into the paint? I think with his experience in the league, going on 4 or 5 years into the league at this point, he's more comfortable. He's more set. And the things that he does well and the things that he doesn't do so well. And his ability to finish at the rim has improved a lot so far this season. I'm noticing. And, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from RJ. I think if he's going to continue to play this way, I don't expect RJ to, have 25 plus points a game. I mean, that would be asking for too much. He's going to struggle from time to time. But again, if he's having sort of performances like this, then I think that's something really good to look forward to. And I'm confident that he can sort of be the driving force this season on why the Knicks are a success. And with that being said, I think he should really, truly be the focal point of the offense. Because if you continue to let Julius Randle, spearhead the ball into oblivion, then you're going to have nights like this. It's just going to continue to happen. So hopefully some decisions, some adjustments are made because clearly I think we're starting to see a shift of the guard, right? I think RJ Barrett is being more comfortable with his game and comfortable being like sort of the offensive drive to the team. One other thing I want to, spend some time talking about. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoy the content, hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. One thing I want to talk about now, something that hasn't really been talked about in, circles a lot lately, but you're starting to see it come up more and more. People are paying close attention. And as Alex B mentioned, can someone please tell me why the Knicks continue to start Quentin Grimes? That's a question I seriously want to know the answer to as well, because as he mentions, what does he do so great that he is the unquestioned starter? Now, we know Tom Thibodeau is in love with Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes is a high IQ basketball player. He is, pretty decent at pretty decent at best, spot up 3-point shooter. Very solid on the defensive end, good size, good girth, good footwork, and being able to keep in front of perimeter, guarding guys on the perimeter. We get all of that stuff. But at this point, I'm more of the mindset where it's like, look, we need to put our best players on the floor. We need to have our best players on the floor at all times. And clearly, I think we can all agree that Quentin Grimes is not better than Immanuel Quickley, right? And you guys can spin this story as many different ways as you want to, right? Yeah, we need Immanuel Quickley to be the driving force of our second unit, right? I get all of that, right? Quentin Grimes is in the starting unit because he's a low usage guy, right? You got too many guys that really need the basketball in their hands, and Quentin Grimes is one of those guys where he can just like plug and play, right? To give more guys opportunity. Yeah, I get all of that, right? But here's the thing. This all goes back to RJ Barrett, in my opinion, because anytime RJ Barrett is on the floor with Immanuel Quickley, things are happening, right? The basketball is moving. The flow of the offense is moving, right? I believe that the offense is more stagnant when you got guys that are supposed to be in the role of being a spot-up shooter that aren't really landing three-pointers. Now, Quentin Grimes, if you look at his percentage, I believe his percentage is pretty decent at the moment, right? But again, as Alex B mentions, he doesn't do anything great. He doesn't do anything that really stands out. Immanuel Quickley has the best defensive rating on the team, one of the best defensive ratings in the league, for crying out loud. Why would you have your best defender on the bench? You would think any, sound-minded coach would have their best defenders on the floor at all times, right? So if that's the fact, right, why does he continue to be a bench player? And if I'm Immanuel Quickley, I'm, maybe making some noise about, look, you guys didn't give me an extension. Clearly, you guys, I don't think it's a matter of the Knicks not wanting to extend Immanuel Quickley. I think it's a matter of they didn't give him the extension because they want to keep their options open, whether that's including Immanuel Quickley in a trade package or letting it be a problem that they worry about later on, right? I think that's where the Knicks are with Immanuel Quickley. They want to keep him, but they don't want to commit fully to a guy that, let's remember, struggled during the playoffs. All this stuff is nice and everything. All these regular season, numbers are nice, but let's remember when it counts. He struggled in the playoffs. So I think that has to do a lot with their hesitation to give him an extension. As we just know, the deadline for the extension just passed. But I'm sitting Grimes. Right? And okay, you sit Grimes. What's the solution for who's going to be the the point guard of the second unit. Look, man, at this point, I'm willing to even entertain having DiVincenzo play a couple of minutes at point, and you stagger the minutes of, Quickly and Brunson. So basically, it becomes a point where for spots in the game, you have one of the other guards run the ball up the court, whether that be DiVincenzo or even Hart, right? Maybe a little bit of McBride. But the point would be to have it to a point where at least one of these players are in the game at all times, that being Emmanuel Quickly or Jalen Brunson. But I just see more of an X factor if we have Emmanuel Quickly in the starting lineup. Look, we often get down early and then we have to claw our way back, right? That Boston game, same thing. We were down and then we clawed our way. We took the lead and then we sort of gave it away. It's funny in that game I'm watching and, I see we got a couple of minutes left. We up like 5 and I'm just like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. They're going to blow this lead. And lo and behold, they did. So in vintage Knicks fashion, we always see the Knicks go up and, spend basically the entire game coming back and then take the lead and, just give it away in the final closing minutes. But this is something that I really think we need to entertain because Grimes just ain't doing it for us right now. I don't care what you say. You can give me all the stats you want, right, on his positive influence to the starters, right? I need my best players on the floor. I need them to start. I need them to finish. I need them to play significant minutes. And at this point right now, I just don't see anything from Grimes that would warrant him being the unquestioned starter. I think Tom Thibodeau, if he's interested in keeping his job, I think he better wisen up. This is something that maybe even should have been considered seasons ago, right? But for whatever reason, Tibbs continues to roll out with Quentin Grimes as a starter, but I think we've seen enough, and this doesn't have to be like a sort of permanent situation, right? But this is a way for guys to stay on their game, right? Look, I like you, but you're not playing well enough to be in the starting lineup. Show me different and you back in there. But until then, your ass is on the bench, right? Because, look, we're already down one win, 2 losses. The season is going to unfold very quickly, and we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we're going to have to claw our way backing up, So something to really, think about. But speaking of all of that, right, all of this is decision making from top to bottom, right? How do you go with, making the maneuvers for who should be in the starting lineup, who should play this amount of minutes, who should play that amount of minutes, right? That decision falls closely on who the coach is. And that's why save the best for last, talking about Tom Thibodeau. All right. Now, as you see with this post here, guys, Tibbs is on the verge of an extension, but talks with him have never really reached an advanced stage in the offseason, per Ian Begley. Will those discussions eventually rekindled? That obviously depends on what happens during the season. And same situation like Emmanuel Quickly. I think the Knicks brass are at the stage of the game where it's like, okay, we like you, Tibbs. You're not doing a bad job, but 4 years in, if it's more of the same, continuing to be more of the same, and there's no success, say, for instance, expectations, Knicks make it to the playoffs, which they should be this season, and they either get bounced in the first round or they get bounced off horribly in the second round. Tibbs is out, right? And I see enough talent on this team that if there was a different coach to bring a little bit of a different flavor, this team could actually leapfrog any iteration of that they're putting on the floor right now, right? Tibbs is good for what he does. He's not even great for what he does, right? Because case in point, take a game like tonight, right? New Orleans was basically getting whatever they wanted on the offensive end. Now, this is a coach that's supposed to be all about defense, right? Defense this, defense that, right? And while the Knicks as a team play, I guess, okay team defense, some of their defenders struggle individually. But again, this is a coach that is supposed to, be defense first. And we saw the Pelicans do whatever they want. I mean, it's hard to stop a guy like Zion Williamson. I get that. But when guys are pretty much just getting into their sets, not having any discomfort with getting into their sets, right? It becomes a question of what is the defensive scheme, right? Going back to Julius for a second, right? In comparison to Zion, I see Julius, get the ball, and they're already sending like a sort of like soft double team to get Julius confused, and it doesn't take that much for Julius to get confused with the basketball, and then he turns the ball over. Meanwhile, on the other side of the court, Zion Williamson, boom, 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 move, 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 easy basket, right? No hesitation, no intimidation, and it becomes a question of what exactly are we doing here, right? Same thing with the offense. Now you got Johnny Bryant, guys like that's supposed to be like the offensive coordinators on the team. But how much power or how much influence do they truly have when you got a guy like Tibbs that has the final say on pretty much every decision that's being made? So I don't think it's going to be a situation where Tibbs gets, fired midseason. I don't see the Knicks struggling like that. They're too good of a team to have a sort of an extended struggle at any point in the season. But again, if we're just treading water and we're not really seeing this team take the next step to another level, then it may be time to get Tibbs out of here. I was fine with keeping Tibbs on a year-to-year basis. I truly thought, even going way back, that, the Knicks would eventually have to look into a new direction for a coach to take them to another level. Tibbs has sort of been that transitional coach, reshaping the foundation, making the foundation stronger. But you may need another guy, a new voice, to really take this thing to another level, because I don't see, it almost seems as if every game we play, the Knicks are having to adjust to whatever the team is doing. You rarely ever see, at least from my eye test, my perspective, that the teams are having to adjust to what the Knicks are doing, right? Why aren't we, the teams, putting pressure and exposing the defense's deficiencies, right? Why shouldn't we be having all of our lights out shooters making the question, who do we guard? Do we worry about Brunson? Do we leave quickly open? Do we have to worry about RJ on the weak side now because we got a more valuable shooter in IQ in the lineup, right? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but time is running out. At a certain point, you're going to find yourself down in this regular season. Other teams are, improving. So I'll be real curious to see what happens going forward with this whole situation, with the coaching schemes, the coach itself. What are we going to be prioritizing on the offensive end? Again, I believe RJ Barrett alongside Jalen Brunson, who I still believe is the best player on this team. RJ Barrett should be a focal point of this offense, whereas Julius Randle should be sort of like the offset distraction scorer. Like when things break down on the offense and you catch Julius on the weak side, or he catches the offensive rebound, second chance opportunities like that. But I'm getting so sick and tired of seeing Julius try to create the offense at the 3-point line or even at the 2, because it seems like he has so much going on in his mind on what he can do and what he should do that he's never really making an efficient basketball decision. And you see what happens tonight. You have turnovers. You have blown possessions. And again, when it's a matter of accountability, this all goes back to the coach. You have a matter of accountability. I've seen multiple possessions, consecutive multiple possessions where Julius Randle is turning the ball over or having some folly basketball play. And my first thing to do is look to Tibbs. And I never see Tibbs having any sort of reaction. Usually, if that was another guy, he would have called timeout and subbed the guy out of the game. But do we see this with Julius Randle? Absolutely not. Have we been seeing any sort of accountability with Julius Randle from Tom Thibodeau? At least I haven't seen anything. So, again, a lot. It's early. I don't want to start panicking. I think we should be concerned. I think we should be very concerned because we know this team well enough to know when things are going well and when things are not, right? It's very clear to see. And, Emmanuel Quickly, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench, he's on a mission to get paid. Obviously, he wants, a pretty sizable contract. And if he is playing like this, then I believe he will deserve one when it's all said and done. But I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing. They could have won the Boston game. They even could have won this game if they would have played their cards a little bit differently, right? So we know what they're capable of, right? There's never been a question of what this Knicks team is capable of. It's all about execution. What are you actually doing? What is the game plan, right? Because I see little things that we can change that would make night and day improvements for this team. And if the coach is going to continue to ignore or intentionally bypass certain things for political reasons or what have you, then we got to get him up out of there, because next thing you know, we're going to be down, minus 500 or whatever you want to see it. And we're going to be climbing. We're going to have an uphill battle this entire regular season trying to get some wins. So we'll see what happens, guys. It's a short stream today. I just want to give you guys my comments on this whole 3-game introduction to the season. Time will tell, guys, right? Time will tell. That's going to be all for the stream, guys. Catch you on a rebound. Again, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, share, comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Keep your fingers crossed for the next game. Hopefully we have better luck. Catch you guys on the